All right, I'm going to talk to you and show you some images about a Hook Reveal 7 I used on a project this winter. This has the triple shot, the sea maps, the inland maps, and it's doesn't have the contours package. Probably going to show you side scan, down scan, and sonar, but there will also be the nav maps and the waypoints you'll see a little bit. This was a winter project to collect crab pots off the bottom of the floor. They'd lost their floats, so there were a lot of oysters and crab pots in these waters. That bag is an ice fishing bag. It's nice. It protects the unit. I can move between boats. And this is my Predator 14 foot. It's 14, almost 14 feet and 36 wide. Um, this is the unit when it's coming out of the box. Don't buy that red battery. It's trash. And get a 32 gig SD card for this. You can't get any bigger than that. And if you get smaller, you can run up. It's nice just to have the 32 gig to record waypoints and tracking your, if you want to record your sonar and stuff. This is the hook on getting put onto the Predator with a pedal drive. Look at the shaft of the pedal. You can see it just fits perfectly in there, and got the battery in that front hatch, transducer on the back. Set up really nice. I'm clicking on the power button here, and you notice that the brightness changes because that's what it does. And you can do that by accident, and all of a sudden your screen goes black. So note that. Transducer's off to the side, out the back, about a foot from the rudder. And that matters. That's the center of where the radar is working. Now, side scan has got a green line down the middle and black on columns, and then the lighter green. And that green line is the transducer hitting the water. Then the black is the water depth, and you can see the depth of the water shrinking in that picture right there. And then all the dirt off to each side is just like slicing it and splaying it out. You can see 10, 20, 30, 80 feet out to the side, and there's a couple crab pots going by in that picture. Now, down scan and sonar, the top two, are looking off a cone going straight down into the water off the back of your boat, and it can go up to about 10 feet and still see things. You can see up the fish swimming around there. There's some different sizes. Reveal makes colors in that down scan to the right. You'll see color sections like the little yellow on the bottom. That could be crabs. That's what the down scan reveal does. That's what the hook reveal is. And that thing at the bottom could be fish, could be a thing on the bottom. It had a shadow, so I think some of that was a fish, bait ball kind of thing in the water. This is me going by a jetty. That jetty's not bent. That's a straight jetty. That's just the boat going back and forth. So you're going to see, be ready for, you know, disruption, not perfection of that image coming through. That's something in the water. And you can see the fish into the right side in the down scan. They have color. That's that reveal function. That's a croaker. I get a lot of croakers in this water, and that's a small one. First croak of the morning there, and you can see the map in that background. We'll look at more of that in a minute. Now, this is some bait balls. They're not very big. You probably need a net to catch any of this stuff. You don't see a lot of it in the side scan. You can see them in the down scan. Sonar's the left, down scan's the right, bottom side scan. Side scan will show you the structures they're hanging on, though, so you can work together on that. Now, this is an oyster tray or a cage. I call them oyster coffins, actually. But they're always in a train. They're tied to a rope and they go in a row. So you can see all these oyster coffins in a row, and we're kind of cross-sectionally going over top, perpendicular. And we're going to go over two, and you'll see those two oyster trains going by on the bottom. Looks like we're in about 4 foot of water there. So we got a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. And because I have the transducer off one side, I get a better reading on the right side of that side scan than I do on the left. It probably could be tuned. I just never worked on it. This is like I was talking about, the back of the kayak moving makes bends in the wall. Excuse me. There's a really wobbly looking wall that's pretty straight. Also note everything showing up is 3 to 5 feet behind you too. So behind the transducer. On the skiff, I actually put the transducer up in the front. So you actually It's not off the back of the boat. That's crab pot or something extruding out of the dirt. Sometimes if they're degraded, they'll look like a little spot like that. Sometimes they'll look bigger. You can see the floor in downscan how varied that is. Sometimes you'll see little yellow things there. Could be crabs, could be fish and croakers and spot down there on the bottom, drum even. Like to hang out on the bottom. You can see a bunch of stuff in the water here. A lot of those are crab pots. Could also be a rotted tree or, something else that's gotten to the floor. There's another image of another spot. There's a lot of these the floats get cut off these by props a lot. It's estimated 20% end up on the bottom of the floor and can last up to 7 years and just sit there and catch crabs and fish and kill them and then recatch and so forth. So they're just not very productive to the seafood industry or to our fishery. So we're trying to work on ways to get them out of the water. Here's a crab pot, pretty cleanly a crab pot. In the fall, we looked for them, learned how to do it, and then in the winter, we picked them up. This is a jetty right off Chesapeake Bay. And yeah, it was pretty rough that day. That's a lot of wave action for the Chesapeake at that spot. This is what a crab pot looks like when you go right over it. So this is right out the back of the boat. It's a shaft or a spike sticking up. It looks like that on down scan and sonar. And here is probably also a crab pot. It could be a little mound in the water, but that's probably a crab pot. You get different readings depending on the way you hit it. Here's also something we're going by. It definitely looks like a crab pot. It's got the square edges, got a little bit of a shadow, but fish can look like that as well sometimes. And especially if the shadow is or surrounding it, it's probably just a ball of fish, a school of fish. And that's probably a little fish there in the blue, but it also could be a pot, 10 feet off, because a 10-foot off pot like this one we're here, where it looks like it's about 15 feet away. I think we get a little dink on the screen. Yeah, you see that little blue blip I'm pointing at? That's a crab pot showing up. It's just 10 feet out, so it looks like a tiny little thing. So you got to learn how to read sonar versus side scan. And the two work well together because of that. There's a lot of noise in the water. That's just waves that the sonar showing that action. Now here comes a pot. And we counted, I think, to 6 from the point we passed over it to because we saw the float on it. I was testing how far back they would show up. And here's going to be 2 pots right beside each other. Again, counting to 6 once we pass the float at the pedal. We'll start to see those spikes standing up. And it's because it's right under the boat, it looks like a spike on both sides of the water because you split it in half, and now half the pot is on each side at the very beginning of the ground surface. And it also shows up in sonar and also shows up in downscan idea. We also tested on the pontoon boat. Had planned to use this a lot this winter and ended up not doing it, but we had a couple issues from a transducer standpoint because there's already a transducer right where the perfect place to put this was. And they were right beside each other and create a lot of dissonance in the signal. So we ended up having to run it off the side of the boat, but we're able to get it working. That's the transducer. It's very long. It's called a Tripleshot. So be prepared for that, especially if you're sticking on a kayak. Now, this is that noise that I was talking about. At first, I thought I had a real big run of fish because it was a fall and I was pretty excited. Dropped my plans, got the fishing rod, right? But this was all magnetic noise, I think, or sonar noise, whatever it is. And there was just 2 transducers right beside each other. And here's the nav system. The maps are not great. I don't have the contours, but the maps themselves are just really rough. I'm not happy with the maps. And this is a path I mapped on the kayak and was going back with the pontoon to go back over those waypoints and see if I could uncover those same pots so I could like map them with one boat and then pick them up with another. You can see some fish in that water. And you're going to see, a couple of pots show up here in the process. We've gone up to one of those waypoints and then flipped over to our other systems, our other screens. Or you can run the waypoints and the screen, the side scan, whatever you want to run. They can set these screens up, they're custom. So there's a pot there. Had a lot of rough water this winter, and when it's rough like this, it shows up in the radar at the top. I'll show you a picture in a second. This is why I don't want a touch screen on my fish finder. It's constantly wet and dirty. Okay. So you can see both in the side scan and in the down scan, this like looks like snow falling or Spanish moss or something. That's the wave churn. You see that showing up. And actually the floor gets churned up too. You see the spikes on the floor. I don't know why it affects it that way, but this is the way a rough water reads. Now this is like some kind of misty little bait ball. It could have been also jellyfish in there as well. Could have been like a bloom or something, but there was a bunch. You can see they're primarily on the bottom if you look at the side scan. This is gratuitous pictures of the sunrise and the lighthouse in the background. Took a trip out to the lighthouse that trip. This is just, I don't know what we're showing here, but you can see the depth of water is getting deeper. The black is getting wider at the top of the screen. Oh, we're passing a day beacon with a osprey nest on it, and you can see that hole showing up there to your right there. It actually split a little bit of it on the left too. That's what a pole looks like in the water. Here's another bait ball of some sort in the water. Again, you're not going to hook any of that. It doesn't have any color. There's one little yellow one at the top. It's starting to show enough density to get color. And with the reveal stuff, if it doesn't have color, I've learned not to throw a hook at it because you're not going to catch anything in it. All sorts of structures on the ground. Those look like trees. You can also see sand versus mud if you're get really good at reading it. I haven't quite figured it all out yet. I've only had this system about 5 months. There's something sticking out. Could be a tree sticking out. Got a shadow on it, so it's definitely dimensional. It could also be a crab pot. And if it was just a little further off the water with a rounded shadow, it could be a fish ball. This is what's on the side I'm running, depth, mileage first, and then depth twice, and then voltage meter and date and time and coordinates are all running over there. You can turn those things on and off. This is night vision. This is what it would look like in night mode. There's two different versions I'm going to show you here. You can see the fish in there too, different colors. The colors kind of show the density of the fish, just like sonar does. Down scan with reveal is kind of like a mixture of down scan and sonar. Here again, you can see the arcs, the chirps of the fish and the color changes. This was the green mode. And that blinking thing at the bottom is a recording sonar. It's annoyingly large. I don't know why they made it so large. And the night mode is blinding in a dark boat. So anyway, that gives you an idea. This is more daytime. And you can see the ground here where it's white and yellow and blue. That shows the density of the soil below the surface. So you'll see fish showing up on different levels of density there and what grows on them and so forth. So it's a really nice trick. And look over to the down scan. You see all the yellow and the pink and the blue. The yellow and pink are bigger densities. Could be crabs, like I said. We have a ton of crabs. I'm guessing those yellows, they could also be reds and spot and so forth. But you got something to throw out there. I've had Fish Finder ID on right here because I'm trying to understand it a little better at that moment. But you could see the fish showing up there. This is also fish at the bottom. I'm not sure what the sonar is showing at the top of the water there. That's a little weird. And at the bottom, you see these two sticks that turned out to be unpullable. We tried to pull those things out for all winter and could not get them out. They're super heavy. Probably piling, a part of a piling or something. Again, probably a crab pot I'm going over about to pick up. You can see it in the screen. There's two or three showing up, one on the right, one on the left. we used a nail rope that we turned in a circle around to pull it. So you'd have to pick one or the other. Primarily, we wanted them 20 feet out anyway, to probably to the right side, and then we turn a circle on it and pull the pot out. I could get up to 2 on the kayak, and I'm up to 4 on the boat. This is me backing up, and that's important. As you're going over something, you see it come out the back, but then if you back up, back over it, or you turn right and go beside it, it's going to show up again. It's not a second one, it's just a new version, image of that same pot. And so in this image, if you spent some time at it, you'd see that I am really going over the same thing 2 or 3 times. And when you change direction, sometimes the image of it changes, and I can't tell you why. Like sometimes it'd be like a nice square, and the next trip it'd be long like this. And that's definitely something super interesting and probably not a pot. You get an idea of their structure there, or something fish could hang out around, so you can throw on it. My favorite oyster train here, a bunch of oyster trays in a row on the bottom, and I got in an angle and a low enough water that you could see them like really clearly there in down scan and in the side scan. So it's pretty cool. And those are fish probably on top of those. So fish are hanging out around the trays. I was using Fish ID just to get familiar with how the fish are showing up in sonar there. I found it pretty inaccurate to what was actually in the water, but it's really about just being able to read your system, and what it's telling you. All right, well, that's kind of it. That's the boat and the gear and what we've been using this winter.